Okay, here we go. Hi, everybody.
It's time for Dart Talk. Brought to you by thedartzone.com. Stay in the zone. Thedartzone.com is an official Cosmo distributor and Windy City Fabricators, America's premier fabricators of orthotics and prosthetics. And Redwood Darts, America's newest tungsten darts. Stand straight and tall and hit them all. Redwood Darts. And now, here are your hosts, Mystery Mark and Steve P.
Okay, welcome to Dart Talk.
Welcome.
What day is it? February something.
19th.
The 19th.
Yes. And it is a Wednesday.
Happy birthday, Callie West.
Happy birthday,
Before
Callie
I
West.
forget, she had a good weekend in Syracuse.
I think she's 29, right?
One would assume.
Yeah.
Never ask a woman her age
No.
or her weight. That's the one thing I remember from my grandmother. Welcome to Dart Talk. Dart Talk brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
DartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. Also, many thanks, Windy City Fabricators and Redwood Darts.
Yes.
We have to talk about, remind me, we have to talk about Redwood Darts today. I promised
Okay.
some guys
In Redwood?
not in Redwood, in Huntsville. I was down in Huntsville
Oh.
over the weekend, and I got a little guff. If you think it's bad, with the website not being up, the Redwood Darts are a constant source of like, where are these things?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So we'll talk about that. We have a lot to get to. We have results from all over the place. We have results from Syracuse Open, Syracuse, New York.
Right.
Yeah, big tournament there. We may have results for Huntsville. I think they came in right before the show. I don't know if we'll have time to get to them. Also, we're going to talk about our ranking system.
Nice.
Our new ranking
Our
system.
new ranking system.
I
yeah.
did publish the formula. I believe it will need quite a bit
So-
of explanation.
Yeah, right.
But I was really proud of
I don't know how
myself.
many people could look at that and go, oh, yeah, I know exactly what
Nobody's
he's talking
gonna-
about.
No, but I don't want people to think I'm making this up, and I can already hear certain people saying this is all gobbledygook, and he's just BSing us, and I'm not. I'm very sincere about this, and I put a lot of time into it, and I believe it's going to work out great, and everyone's going to end up being like, well, this is like the coolest thing since
Sliced bread?
I was going to say a toaster. Or what do they call it in, what was the one movie that everybody liked? What did we see? We went to a movie like Christmas Eve.
Yeah, American Hustle.
Yeah. And they're calling it the science oven.
Yeah.
It's like a microwave or
Right.
something. So, yeah, best thing since a science oven. Anyway, let's do the disclaimer real quick before we forget. Where is it? Give me a disclaimer. Any disclaimer.
The views, opinions, rants, and rampages expressed on Dart Talk do not necessarily reflect individually or collectively those of our sponsors, co-sponsors, wannabe hosts, hearing-impaired critics, or those with a penchant for attitudinal dysfunction. We at Dart Talk strive to provide you, the listener, with an educational, entertaining, and fun-filled experience each and every week. If after the show you, the listener, find yourself feeling uneducated, unentertained, and or bored, we at Dart Talk consider that your own problem.
Okay. Thanks for that, Sparther. So where are we now? What are we talking about? What are we doing? Where were we? Hi to everybody in the chat room. Hi to
you were
everybody
explaining
around the
what was
world.
happening.
Yeah,
we were
what's on the
talking
show?
about.
Right.
And
So
we just got done with the your new equation,
formula,
whatever you want to call it.
It's not quite like Formula 51, but it's close.
Echoey and loud.
Echoey and loud. Okay. We'll work on that. We'll effort that as we speak. We've got something a little different going, so that may be
Right.
what the problem is. We want to start off talking about stats, though.
Okay.
There's some issues with the Players Challenge Series. We should also, we'll let you know what happened in the Players Challenge Series. If you want to know about the Premier League and stuff like that, look at the crawl. It'll be in there. I don't know if we're going to have time to get the Premier League week 2, but the results from week 2 and also the matches for tomorrow are in the crawl. It's a long crawl, so That way you guys don't have to look at me. Anyway, we do have a guest, though.
We do have a guest.
Right. We have the commissioner from the PDSL New York City Premier League with us. Dax Munna was kind enough to join us. And
hopefully we have time to get to him.
Well, it's funny. And I met Dax a while ago when I was traveling. It must have been like 3 or 4 years ago. But he's a big believer in the value of stats. And I know there's been, like, with the PCS, why stats? Why do we need them? La-di-da-di. There's been a lot of discussion. So Dax is kind enough to come on the show and tell us a little bit about the stats and stuff like that. So let's get him on here. Are you with us, Dax?
Hi, Steve. Hi, Mark. How are you?
Hi.
Good. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Dart Talk. Let's everybody see your face here. There you are. So, Dax, real quick, just tell the listeners who don't know you kind of a little bit about yourself, as far as your dart career goes, stuff like that.
Sure. It really took off back when I met you a few years back. I had been playing and living in Providence, Rhode Island, playing with Freddie Krueger. He first convinced me to start doing a little tournament play.
The guy's name is Freddie Krueger?
Freddie Krueger, real name.
Wow.
Real name, one of those dark horse sleepers from Rhode Island. Great chat. And I met Steve around that time. My game really took off from there. While up there, I was introduced to a format that was out of Massachusetts for a couple of years, the PDSL, the Pro Developmental Players League, long format 501. And when I moved back to New York City, where I'm from, I introduced it with the help of local promoter, Anthony Eugenia, and we really made it explode in the New York City area. And it really went from there. I do the local stuff on occasion here, but not much of a traveler. One of those kind of dark horses myself that certainly when I show up, I hope you don't sleep on me.
Right. So tell us a little bit, I know you and I went back and forth on this for a while, and we're pretty much in agreement. But tell us a little bit about the value of keeping stats. I understand that one of the things about the I'm sorry, I'm hearing beeps.
I know.
Well, we may have some audio problems.
The last time we had Skype, those beeps were going on. I don't know what there.
The value of stats and the reason that you keep stats in the PDSL that you're running. Tell us a little bit. How hard is it for the players to keep stats, and what's the value of doing it?
Sure. So the format that was produced, it's doublecork.com is where it comes from, a great guy by the name of Mark Clifford up in the Massachusetts area. It's all very formatted and all very easy to do in terms of taking the stats and inputting them into his website. The format we play and the stats we keep, it's basically the same as the first round of either the BDO or PDC World Championships. It's 3 out of 5 sets. Each set is 3 out of 5 legs. So you're playing, and it's one-on-one. It's alternating throw. You're playing a minimum of 9 in a whitewash. You're playing a maximum of 25 if you go every leg. And we keep points per dart or points per round. And the one really great and important thing is we all love watching the pros, and we watch the running averages and we watch the running checkout rates. And most people, when they see that, they just say, wow, without really knowing what that means. So, it's when Taylor is over 100 a round for 30 plus legs, that means he's finishing on 15 darts or better every single leg on average. And I don't think enough people truly soak that up and appreciate what it means. Too much of what we do here, 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 5, often no stats are kept. And for as great as a lot of the American players are, we're not really understanding how great or how sometimes not so great they are. It's really important that we illuminate the stats so that we know, one, where we stand individually, but two, where we stand on the big stage as well, because we got a nice handful of 4 or 5 guys who are taking the time to go overseas So it's nice to know what we're dealing with there.
Yeah, from a comparison standpoint, I think stats are great. I don't know that they give you like a total, like 100% picture. Like the stats that we keep for darts aren't exactly like a box score.
Right.
Where if you know how to read a box score, you can literally
figure out what happened.
Pretty much, inning by inning, batter by batter, you get a really good sense of a game that you missed. I'm not sure that the dart stats we keep really do that, but they certainly help.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for the players, Dax, it's kind of funny, steel tippers are always like, kind of mocking soft tippers about not being able to count and stuff like that. But, people that play electronic darts, they get feedback on every single leg. They get, how cricket, they get marks per round. And then in 01, they get, I guess they get a per round average.
Right.
Right. It's kind of inflated because if you're throwing at the big bull, everybody's over 100 apparently. How hard is it, Dax, for the players in your league to actually keep those stats, to get the darts per round that you guys require?
So what we have, and certainly it was a work in progress, but what we've put together in New York is we've developed our own New York City Premier League. We every 6 months do this format with the 8 best that are available for that season. Most notably, Jim Widmeyer is perennially on top of it. But we get plenty, all the locals from New York and New Jersey who really are pushing it in every tournament that's out there. We all play two matches against each other every season. And what we do in terms of keeping the stats is we've gained enough momentum and we've gained enough respect amongst each other that we really do it for each other. So we have 8 guys. We have 2 matches going at 7:30 and 2 matches going at 8:30 in our host bar, the Gaff East. And if you're not playing those matches, you score for the other matches. And it's a mutual respect we have for each other and for high-level game, so that we keep the flow of every game going, so that you don't actually have to mark your own game. It really helps the flow, and we actually have a benevolent soul in our kind of corraler, Liz Bretz. She has all the pre-made sheets from doublecork.com, and we call out 501 18 darts and 441 15 darts, and we go from there, and we just keep the flow of the game going.
So you have a chalker, and then you're just telling, somebody kind of sitting down, okay, that was a 16 darter, and the other guy was on like 61, and off you go.
Correct.
Pretty simple,
right? It's really smooth. I mean, we'll have, there's little accolades. There's a 180 count, so when someone hits a 180, you call it out. But there's no all-star points. It's not like league. It's like, we're the best 8 guys who are available that season in this area, and all we want to do is push each other and push those numbers higher, because the competition is really good.
Nice. Okay, we're coming up on our first break. Can you stay with us, Dax?
Sure.
Okay, we're going to try to check into some audio issues. I'm getting some messages I don't quite understand. We'll be back in a minute. You're listening to Dart Talk with Mystery Mark, Steve Pronuncielman, and our guest, Dax Munna. Sorry about that, Dax. And
no problem.
We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
The views and opinions expressed on Dart Talk are those of the hosts. They in no way should be misrepresented, misinterpreted, or made to claim that the universe is against you, your family, your city, or the darting community at large.
Okay, back for the second quarter, brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
DartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. Also, many thanks Windy City Fabricators, Redwood Darts, and Dax Munna, who's still with us talking talking numbers. Well, I don't remember who I was talking to, but I was saying something about how statistics are like a bikini. You've heard me say that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Benefits of higher education. They reveal a lot, but they hide the essentials. Dart statistics are kind of funny too. You know, Jill plays in a league that's somewhat similar to Dax's, where you know they're keeping points per round and stuff like that. And you know, she has these nightmare scenarios where she's like, "Well, my average was really bad because, you know, I missed like 25 darts at a double in one leg." And I'm like, "Well, that's the disadvantage to playing, you know, people that are, you know, at a lower level, because when you play good people, they finish."
Yeah.
So you look at
you
some
don't
of
have
these,
25 shots.
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at Phil Taylor's stats. Van Gerwen whitewashed him, but he averaged nearly 100 because he never had a whack at a double.
Yeah.
So when you start throwing at finishes, you know, all of a sudden
Your
you
numbers
can't
are
throw
gonna
a
go
ton
down,
80.
right.
Yeah. So your average is going to go down. So you see some of these averages, like averaging like 110 is like totally insane. I mean, you're basically going like, you know, 11, 13, 14, 11, stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, that's hard to do. You know, even, you know, if you're averaging 110, that's actually over, I believe, that's over a 14 darter.
Okay.
So, you know, you string together, you know, 3 or 4 games that are, you know, 13, 14 darts, you're going to have a tremendous average. You know, so, you know, if you guys look at the crawl, we've got the averages now. We updated the PCS Players Challenge Series rankings. And everybody's, for the most part, with the exception of 3 people, everybody's right around 80.
Okay.
Right? And it's kind of funny because you're 1 or 2 darts away from having a really solid average.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and you can weigh in on this one, Dax. You know, to me, I don't see much of a difference. I mean, there's a difference, but I mean, if you're averaging 95, or you're averaging 90, or you're averaging 87, you're still over 15 darts. As long as you're under 18.
Well,
right?
my whole point and the push and the challenge that I actually put out to all the, you know, and to kind of lead into a little bit more of your ranking system, the challenge I put out to the quality players out there, the really, you know, the guys who have been putting the time, and the girls who have been putting the time over the years and been ranked as high as they've been ranked. I've been putting the challenge out to everyone to say, show me 83.5 a round, which is the 18 darts. The 18 darts is that case cracker, in my opinion, for U.S. darts to really start making more of a splash when it comes to overseas. We will not get through any of those first rounds if we're not really pushing 18 darts. And what I've loved about watching the stats for the Players Challenge Series come in is I had sent you that graph I put together a little while ago saying, listen, I believe that what I would call a top tournament player is between 19 and 21 darts. And a lot of people and their egos get a little sensitive by that, because that's an average between 71 and 79. And I loved seeing it get illuminated, because I was confident that there were only 3 or 4 players that, if they played each other in long format, would push the 18 dart line. And that line is huge, because if 18 darts, if you're off the leg, if you're off the throw on 18 darts, it means your opponent's winning on 15, which means you tip your cap and keep moving. I mean, because that's just great darts.
Yeah. And I think, now we've had a bunch of matches now, and, again, I don't know how much. I agree pretty much with everything he's saying, but I think, my point is, like, when it comes to the Players Challenge Series, one of the problems that we're having is that these guys are not really playing under ideal conditions.
Right.
Right? You got guys that are playing, like, after 3 events. You got guys that are kind of, Jason Brandon kind of ran out of his car and pretty much ran right to the board
to the
and
hockey and started throwing.
I mean, we're not playing under optimal conditions yet, so I think that a lot of the averages that you're seeing, guys could do better, right? I think the first match with Mark Fair and Darren Young, they both averaged right around 83. I think Darren was right around 84, and I think they'd all admit, well, we could play better. You missed some darts, and
of course.
When you do the averages, sometimes like, the ice skating judges, right? You throw out the low and the high.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, now you're starting to, like, fiddle with your numbers and stuff like that to get them to please you. But I don't think anybody should really, like, feel bad about whatever average they threw. I mean, I think it's throwing some guys off to, they're worried about their averages instead of, the dart in their hand and, the target in front of them. So maybe we'll see that change. And again, this is something new that we're doing. So, but I agree with Dax. I think it's extremely valuable to quantify some of this stuff. That's the one thing about electronic darts that is, like, so cool, is they get, they generate this stuff automatically and they don't have to do anything. And I think it's valuable to get.
Well,
feedback
yeah. I mean,
like
how could
that.
it not be good to have feedback? I mean, everybody wants feedback on how they're doing. I mean, just instead of just mentally thinking, well, I threw well, didn't throw well. I mean, you could sit there and look at the numbers and thought you threw poorly, and like he says, and not realize that the other guy you're throwing 18 darters and the other guy's throwing 15, and you think you played poorly, but actually you didn't. You just got beat.
Well, yeah, you got beat by somebody averaging 100.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what happened to Widmer in the second round of that World Trophy, that BDO thing he played, the Daily Mirror World Trophy, where Gary Robson, I think, averaged 98. And, Widmer was actually averaging, I thought he was in the low 90s or the high 80s by the end of the match. It wasn't like he played bad.
Right.
He just didn't play well enough. And I think if we start quantifying this stuff and we start saying, look, this, and this is what I think Dax is saying, correct me if I'm wrong here, the idea that, there's a standard here that you guys are not meeting.
Right.
You may be beating the guys, that you're running around playing, but you're nowhere near where you need to be if you want to compete internationally or you want to compete at the top level. Is that pretty much what you're trying to say there, Dax?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so I understand the man. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
All right, well, stay with us, Dax, because this kind of leads into this ranking system, and I'm kind of deathly afraid that everything's going to blow up, but it hasn't blown up yet.
Come on.
But well, okay. So stay with us, Dax, because what I want to do is I want to talk about this ranking system that I actually posted the formula, and you can weigh in on this. You understand dart statistics and stuff, and you understand their value. So I think you having input on this would be helpful. Now I showed it to you.
Yes.
What was your initial impression, aside from the fact that it was like algebra class and you were bummed out?
Well, yeah. My initial reaction was I have no idea what this means.
Right. Okay. Well, let's
Kind of like in algebra class.
Right. Let me see if we could just put it in front of everybody and make sure that there's still sound while we're talking about
Right.
it. So I'll throw this up, and then you kind of talk. Where'd it go?
I don't know what you do with it.
Okay, it's over here.
Okay.
So
There
now
you go.
let's. Okay, so
All right. So it
everybody
looks
can
like we
still
have some-
hear us when
yeah.
the slide is up. I'll leave it up here for a second, and you can kind of see.
Which actually, that's what the one you originally showed me,
Yeah.
which was this one on the paper, made even less sense than that one. But
Well, because it's condensed.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
exactly.
actually the formula, and I tried to break it down on the slide so people could kind of see the progression,
Right.
the logical progression. So, can everybody hear us in the chat room? Because I'll start talking about this, and then as soon as their eyes glaze over, we'll take a break.
right.
Because this is a little complicated. Let me explain the concept here, and the reason why we're doing it. Because I think that's I think some people got some misconceptions about why to actually do this. And, you know, I talked to some people in Huntsville about it, and they were somewhat dubious, right? Now, you've heard me complain we have too many ranking systems.
Correct.
I mean,
yes.
only 100 or 200 times.
Right.
Right? So my idea here, it sort of goes back to when NAPTA, the North American Professional Dart Alliance, when they first started their...
Lobster Fest, the year's largest selection of
Lobster
lobster.
Fest.
Okay. You're going to have to watch that there, Dax. We heard something.
I bet.
Anyway, he's probably getting like, I don't know. I kind of lost my train of thought. No.
Yeah.
When part of the reason I was all gung-ho for NAPTA was when they ran the first pro cricket singles in Virginia Beach, they used the ADO ranking system, which had no Canadians. So they made all the Canadians qualify. And
Right.
I'm like,
I remember that.
This is
Right.
so silly.
Right.
Okay. Well, we're kind of approaching sort of the same point now, because you're going to have, there's a lot more people that are playing soft tip that didn't used to play soft tip, that played mostly steel, and now you have people that, you know, primarily played a lot of electronic trying their hand at steel. So if you want to seed events, how are you going to do that? If you go to Virginia Beach and you've got top level soft tip players that aren't, you know, known by the ADO and don't play much steel but play plenty of cricket, how are they not seeded? If Scotty Kirchner comes up and to play cricket, I mean, how is that guy not going to be seeded?
Right.
Right? So that's one issue. Another issue is that I'm very unhappy with the way we do ratings anyway, because
True.
we never have tried to calculate strength of field. And this weekend's a perfect example. You had a $20,000 tournament in Syracuse, $25,000 tournament in Huntsville, right? If you won the singles at one and you won the singles at the other, which is worth more?
Right.
Right? Should they be the same?
Well, you can argue both ways that, yeah.
I don't see much argument for them being
You
the
don't.
same. So what I try to do is I try to figure out some equitable way where you could give tournament events of value and quantify everything so everything would be equitable. So you could take somebody who played soft tip at the NDA or the Americas Tour or the Bullshooter Regional or, you know, whatever, and you could say, well, you know what, you won this event, here's how many points you get, right? You won the singles in Huntsville, here's how many points you get. You went to a $5,000 tournament in the tri-state area that had like all these great shots, and you came in second, but it was only a $5,000 tournament, whereas somebody is in Wyoming at a $5,000 tournament, and, you know, it's just like local people. Why should they get the same amount of points as somebody who had to battle through some of the best players
Well, how
in
do
the
you
country?
determine that?
I have a solution.
All right.
Okay, are we time for a break?
Yes.
All right. We'll take a break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes, and I will give you the solution, and I will solve all of our problems with a magic bullet. And everyone, I will explain this formula to everyone, and you will all be delighted and thankful and grateful, and everyone will embrace it. That's my current plan.
I can't wait.
Okay. You're listening to Dart Talk with Steve Mark. Dax Munn is in the wings, and we'll be right back.
The views and opinions expressed on Dart Talk are those of the hosts. They in no way should be misrepresented, misinterpreted, or made to claim that the universe is against you, your family, your city, or the darting community at large.
Okay, back for the second half, brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
DartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. Also, many thanks, Windy City Fabricators, Redwood Darts, and Dax Munna of the New York City Premier League.
The commish.
Still with us, the commish.
Yes.
Yeah, before I show everybody the formula, there's one thing that I wanted to make clear. You know,
Okay.
and I had posted something about, you know, ours can be like the master list that everyone can use, and it'll be universal, and it will add soft tip players. It'll add Canadians.
It'll be all-encompassing.
Yeah, it'll be all-encompassing, but that doesn't mean that, you know, you can't use the ADO rankings for whatever you want to use them for.
Right.
It doesn't mean you can't use, you know, whatever ranking system you want to use. I mean, we're just going to do ours.
Yeah.
And we're going to make ours inclusive to everything so that you can start looking at, you know, soft tip dart players and steel tip dart players together. Right? It's all one big kumbaya happy family. Well, no, because I think it's important. I think it's important to have one number. Remember the Moneyball? I mean, Jill cracks me up. Jill loves that movie because she likes the part where the guy says, where Brad Pitt points to the guy and he says, "Do we care if he walks?" And the guy says, "You do not." It's like her favorite line in the movie. But the idea from that movie that I like is when he's trying to, they show all this thing and he's showing all this code and he's like, the idea is to get to one number. The idea is to get to one number to value a player. So with our ranking system, we're going to come up with one number, and then if my number's higher than your number, then I'm ahead of you.
Yeah.
So here's how we're going to do it. And let me show everybody the slide here. Dax, you're not going to be able to see it, but I will describe it. For the people listening to the podcast, they won't be able to see it either. You podcast people need to start looking at YouTube when you get a chance. I know you're probably not going to be able to do it on your phones, but we're going to be adding a lot more visual content to the show, especially hopefully next week. So you don't want to miss out on that. Anyway, here's our power rankings formula.
All right.
Okay.
Let's have it.
So do you have a question already or no?
Well,
right, well,
what does it all mean?
Okay. Well, we have a couple of values. The first value on the slide is called ER.
Okay.
ER stands for your event rating.
Right.
So every singles event is going to have a numerical rating, and we're going to calculate it in a very simple manner. Well, I think it's very simple.
Sure.
We're going to count the number of quality players in the field.
Yes, which is determined by?
Well, the quality players are going to be determined in a number of ways, but we are not going to tell anyone who the quality players are, because I just don't want the emails. I don't want people coming up to me saying, how come I'm not a quality player and all this stuff. However, everyone's going to have to trust me that we're going to do an exhaustive process to determine who's a quality player, just for the purposes of determining strength of field.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do here, that the ER value, the event rating, is
for strength of field.
It's strictly to give a number to an event that represents the strength of field, which is not an easy thing to do, but the formula is pretty simple. We're going to take the number of quality players.
Can people come and go as a quality player?
Yeah, I think we'll probably update it like every 6 months or something like that, because you have to be able to do this. And I was actually, it's funny, one of the people that I was going to make an example of when I talked about quality players is a guy like Scotty Burnett. Like, Scotty Burnett is out in California and he doesn't travel much. I don't think I've ever seen him in the Midwest. Excuse me. I think I've seen him once in Stanford.
Okay.
And I'm not sure he's ever been to Virginia Beach or some of the big tournaments on the East Coast, but I don't think anyone would say he's not a quality player, right? But if for some reason, he doesn't go to ADO regionals on the West Coast or something like that, he's not going to be that high up in the ADO ranking system or in the NAPTA ranking system or whatever ranking system you're going to use. And then the electronic vendors don't really keep one. At least I can't really find one. The bullshooter has like, a pro list, but doesn't really tell you anything, right? It says, okay, you must have won some money within the last 3 years. I mean, what is that? But, Scotty Burnett won like the biggest tournament in America 4 or 5 years ago, right? So obviously he was a quality player then.
Yeah.
Whether he's still a quality player now, well, let me tell you, I can't imagine. I want to see the person who says he's not.
Okay.
Okay. Somebody who says Scotty Burnett's not a quality player, you tell me.
Right.
And there's a lot
with
of guys.
Reasons.
Well,
you can't just say it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people like that I consider a quality player, and I think anybody would consider a quality player, but they may not have, rankings that like it would whatever cutoff you would give. Like if you're going to say a quality player is top 50 in the ADO, well, okay, I guarantee you I could look down the list and look at 72 or 82 or 92 and say, well, he's a quality player too.
Yeah.
So we don't want to be arbitrary about it. We want to be as exhaustive as we can, and we'll use every resource we can to identify them.
All right.
So anyway, that's quality players.
I got that.
Okay. So what we're going to do is it's a simple mathematical thing where we're going to take the count the number of quality players in the field, and we're going to divide it by the number of players. Okay, so
field size.
Yeah, if there's 10 quality players in a field of 100, that gives you 0.1.
Okay,
right? Because it's 10%. Yes. We're going to take that 10% and we're going to multiply it by the FSM.
The FSM, which
that is the field. Oh God, I didn't write it down on the slide. That is the field size multiplier. And what it does is it takes that 0.1 and makes it a larger number.
Okay.
But the reason that we do it this way, and if there's any mathematicians in the chat room, they'll bear this out. What we're doing here is we're factoring in the size of the field. So let's say you're in a 10%. Let's say that you're. What is that error in my
I don't know.
ear?
I was going to ask you that too.
What is that?
I don't know.
What we're doing is we're taking it's another way of calculating the strength of field, but also we're factoring in the size of the field.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, you can argue this both ways. We talked about this before the show.
Yeah.
Let's say that you're in a field of 32 and there's 16 quality players, which would make the first part of that 0.5.
Right.
Much better. Now, is it easier to win an event in a field of that size or in a larger field? Right? Yeah, I guess you could argue it both ways. Well, you've watered down now the strength of field because you have more players and they're not quality players, but you also have to win more matches. Right.
But if you're a quality player, you would think you would win those matches. Well, but I could see how you could argue both ways.
Especially in 01, you miss some doubles and you lose. So,
yeah, exactly.
So the idea here was to balance out that argument.
Right.
For the people that are like, well, it's much harder to win best of 3 and it's much, all this stuff. This quantifies the size of the field and gives it a weight, taking into account that because you have to win more matches, the FSM actually calculates, and if you look there, it says field size divided by 32 in brackets, which means you drop the remainder minus 1. So what it does is it's actually analyzing the size of the bracket that you're playing in, and then the bigger your bracket, the higher the ER is going to be.
Okay.
Okay. So what we're basically saying is that we're looking at the size of the field and the number of quality players, and that event rating is basically going to quantify the strength of field. Okay. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be like an exact science, but it's going to be closer than anything anybody's come up with so far. And of course, we're open to suggestions if anybody has improvements. So now that you have an event rating, what we're doing is we're taking that and we're adding what I call the match length adjustment factor, which is another formula, and I just kind of put the abbreviation down there.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're taking your event rating, and then we're looking to see how long are the matches.
Right. Best
of
3,
best
of 5,
best of 11, best of 7, best of 9, whatever. And it's built in where you get more points if it's best of 5. You get more points if it's best of 5, and then it goes up like in the top 8, the best of 7.
Okay.
Right. You see what I'm saying? And then if it's all
and
best
why
of
is that
7,
though? I mean,
Because the longer matches are harder to win.
All right.
So your event rating, or I'm sorry, your event value calculates how hard it is to win the event based on the length of the event and the quality of the field, or the strength of field, let's say, instead of quality, whatever. So we're putting those two things together, and you're coming up with an event value. So based on this formula that you guys see in front of you, you can apply this to a soft tip event. You can apply it to a steel event. You could apply it to 501.
Yeah.
You could apply it to cricket in a very uniform way, and get something tangible. That, for comparison's sake, we can put everyone in the race. So if you play a bull shooter regional and you come in third, you get points.
Yeah.
We have points that are uniform, right? Now, if there's only 12 people in the field, you're not going to get as many points as if there were 200.
Yeah.
Right? You see what I'm saying? So if you look at the crawl when we go back to the camera and you look at the Dart Talk Power Rankings, the reason Joe Huffman is number 1 is because Joe Huffman was runner-up in the 501 that had more than 256 players, and the number of quality players was off the chart. It's probably going to end up being the toughest field of the year.
All year, right.
All right, so he gets more points coming in second for that
Right.
than some people will for winning. Probably, I haven't done February, but it may end up being way more points than you get for Syracuse or you get for Huntsville. Depends on, kind of how many people played.
Sure.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So what we're being objective about this, but there has to be a way to quantify this. So this is how we're doing it. This is our attempt. We're making it transparent so everyone can see what we're doing, and nobody thinks I'm cooking anything.
Cooking the books?
Well, why would I?
I have no idea.
What would I
You have a
care?
personal agenda, Steve.
Yeah, I have a personal agenda. We're going to treat darts like a sport. That's my personal
Exactly,
agenda.
right.
And I'm going to drag some people kicking and screaming by the scruff of their hair, but I don't mind doing it. I'll tell you. Okay, so now you have an event value.
Yes.
Every event, every singles event has a value.
Right.
Okay, now all we have to do is multiply that by the placement points. Right, you get so many points for first, so many for second, so many for fourth, so many for eighth, and so on and so forth. So we have a formula for that that also calculates the reason it's finish times FSM, which is up there, is that you're going to go down. You're going to award more points. You're going to award points for more places when there's more people playing.
Okay, right.
See what I'm saying?
That makes sense, yeah.
So if you're in a field of 512, the points will go down to top 32. If you're in a field of 15, obviously you're not going to go all the way down. You're not going to get points for showing up.
Yeah,
That's the other beef I have with some of the ranking systems we have now is I don't see any reason why it should be skewed for attendance, because like a guy like Dax, who's a fine player who doesn't have an opportunity to travel, is ignored in a system like that. Whereas somebody of lesser ability who, for whatever reason, manages to go to all sorts of tournaments and make top 32s, right, is going to end up with, loads of points.
Right.
I'm not going to mention any names, but somebody won the ADO points title some years ago that barely won anything, but went to,
You went to enough tournaments.
Went to 25 tournaments, and all those top 32s add up.
Right.
Along with ADO regional points and stuff like that. So, another thing that isn't on the slide, what we're going to do, and I think we said this on the show, is we're going to weight this where the current month is worth more than 4 months ago. Right? It's going to be like a sliding scale, which is kind of a,
how
what
are
have
you
you done
playing
for me
now?
lately?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So you'll be able to look at our power rankings, and you'll know who the top player in the country is any given month. We'll also be able to keep this and do a cumulative thing where, like, at the end of the year, we have, like, our year-end thing where every month is weighted the same, and it'll just look like every other kind of list.
Okay.
However, we'll now have a ranking system that includes soft
How do you weight the
and,
months?
Well, we're going to have, I forget how we did it. It's 40% for the current month, then 25% for the preceding month. Is that 65? Then 20% for the month before that, and 15% for the month before that. So the way the PDC does it, it's like a 2-year scale, where you won money 2 years ago and it's still there. That isn't reflective to me of like what the kind of
how
what
you're
have you
playing
done?
right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, it doesn't
Right.
really tell you anything, and whatever reason they did it that way, I like this way better. I think this is like, you want to see where you're ranked, you can look at this and you'll know.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing we're going to do is we're going to limit it to 3 events a month. So we'll take your best. So if you're somebody that plays, 4 tournaments a month, we're going to take your 3 best finishes of the month, and those are the ones that will count.
Okay.
Now, the reason we're doing it this way is because there are a lot of, especially the bigger tournaments, have 3 singles events a month. Or, I'm sorry, 3 singles events a tournament.
Yeah, right.
So you could literally go to 1 tournament a month and get your max. I think that's a good way to do it, because for the people that play a lot of electronic, they don't have a lot of big tournaments to go to.
Mm-hmm.
At least I don't see too many. There's more now. Excuse me, with the Americas Tour and stuff like that. But this, I think, we could actually work in something like Webcam Darts. They have a tournament every two a week or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, we might be able to work those guys in, because their strength of field is quantified.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They can actually get an average of what the points per round is of everybody that played in their tournament, and we can add them.
Yeah.
Right? We'll be able to add everyone, because we now have a formula to evaluate the events that everyone plays. And if it turns out that some mathematician has a better way of doing this, then we'll adjust it. But I worked on this for a few hours, and I actually had to contact a buddy of mine I went to high school with, who's like a PhD in chemical engineering, to help me with the brackets, the little thing there to drop the remainder. Right. So this is our formula. This is what we're going to go with. It's actually tweaked.
I like it.
Do you? You won't. You're a yes man, from what I hear. That's the word on you in Huntsville.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, you're like a little. You're a little yes man, and you agree with everything I say. Should Cal Ripken be in the Hall of Fame?
I think so.
No way. He's never in the Hall of Fame unless
How does that not factor into it?
Since when is perfect attendance supposed to get you in the Hall of Fame? Guy
It's
hit
perfect.
276.
It's different than showing up to school with a pencil every day.
Why is it different?
Because you're actually.
Did you resent the kids in school that got perfect attendance awards? You could be a zombie and get a perfect
I could care
attendance.
less.
Well, okay. So we don't agree.
So we
Just
don't
so
agree.
everybody knows you're not a yes man. Okay. Dax, you want to weigh in on this formula thing? You've been pretty quiet there. I've been rambling on here.
No, yeah, it's the one thing that I really like, and it's new, and it's challenging to the old regime, so to speak. The tough part that people are going to have with it is, so many people are used to the old way. I like the fact that you illuminate both steel and soft tip in this. I love the fact that you weigh more current tournaments a little higher or with more weight. And I really like that it pushes the envelope and illuminates players who are staying active out in the tournament field. What's great about that is it really brings to light some of those players' names at the very least, who a lot of other people don't get to see. I personally don't do a lot of soft tip, but it's nice to see where there's crossover and where I start to see new names, and I ask the questions. You say, oh yeah, he played a lot of soft tip and he's been migrating to steel. And I like that fact. The analogy that comes to mind, and certainly the pushback with anything new, is, you look at the people who forever have made billions on oil, and then there's all these new types of energy, and everyone says, well, all that stuff's no good. Stick with oil, stick with oil. There's always going to be pushback on the people who have sowed their oats on the old ranking systems. But the sad part is there's nothing unified in this country, whether it be ranking or money or just everyone getting along, and egos always clashing. Everyone wants to do it, their way and have their way be the right way, which is tough. I like that this throws a wrinkle into a lot of the older ways of thinking. And I like really weighing the strength of field, based on quality players. One thing that we do as a gray line for our people trying to see who we may invite with the one spot we have. We basically use the 21 dart or 71 and change as a PPR as our indefinite cutoff. It's like if you're not at 21 darts, you're certainly not pushing guys like Jim and myself, who are now getting close to pushing that 18 dart level. So we want to keep the field pushed, and perhaps something like that goes into looking at quality players. I also really like the fact that how many legs you're playing is taken into account, because quite honestly, in any locale, any of the best players in the country have run into some of the hottest league players around who took them in 3 16-dart legs, and that was their first round. So it's nice when you extend formats, so that really the top players end up shining in the longer format. They have the fortitude, they have the stamina, and quite honestly, if anything else, you see the top players really flourish the more legs they play. So I think that is huge in your weighting system.
Okay, cool.
All right.
So we got another yes man. We sold Dax on it. To be honest, I think it's great. I spent a lot of time on this, and I tried to figure out some way to calculate strength of field. That's the hard part.
Well, I agree with what Dax said.
The other stuff is kind of just
there's
numbers,
always going to be naysayers, and I mean, just even like the BCS. People hated it, but it was the best new thing, and then now they've changed that too. I mean, things come and go, but there's always, you're trying to get the best way to rank players. You're not just trying to come up with something just for yourself.
Yeah, believe me, I after Huntsville, I'm not going to be ranked anywhere. But I mean, the idea here is to give people something to look at, something to point to, and if they want to talk about it and say, well, this guy should be here and this guy should be here, that's what sports talk is about anyway.
The NCAA tournament's coming up, and everybody, strength of schedule or the RPI ranking, some people think it's a good idea. Some people think, well, with the RP, what's that mean, and this and that. So, I mean, some people use it, some people don't. You can use it if you want. You don't have to use it if you don't want to.
Well, we're using it.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
not you.
Well, no, I mean, there are people.
You're not going to come up with it and then
not
use it.
I'm not trying to blow anything up. I mean, I understand, the ADO ranking system's been around a long time, and, some people have invested a lot of time into, trying to move up in that ranking system.
Sure.
And I'm pretty sure that the ADO isn't going to call me tomorrow and say, can we drop ours and use yours? So, if you like the ADO system, it's still going to be there.
Sure.
If there's some other ranking system you like, I'm pretty sure they're not going to call me up tomorrow and say, hey, we're going to quit and we'll just use yours. I mean, but this is one thing that people are going to be able to point to.
Well, it's another thing to gauge. You can look at every ranking system and make an opinion on your own by each rating system.
Well,
you don't have to just pick one.
So, okay, people can use it as one more tool in their toolbox of confusion as far as, what ranking system to go by. Ours is going to be by far the most superior.
All right.
If you want to find out, who's the hottest player in America at any given time, our system will give that to you. And I think I was going back and forth with somebody about this. It may turn out that when our yearly one comes out, it's very, very similar to what everybody kind of thinks, right? Because, the people that win end up at the top of whatever ranking system you're on. I mean, you can't come up with a ranking system that makes people who never win number one. I haven't seen one anyway. Anyway, okay, we'll take our last break. Thanks, Dax. You going to stick around?
You tell me.
Oh, well, it's up to you, man. If you got time, we like having you. You're listening to Dark
The baby's sleeping, so I can do it.
Sweet. Okay. Dax Munna, Mystery Mark, Steve Penunciaman, and we'll be back after one more break.
here talking about practice. Let's talk about something important. Focus on the fundamentals. Not a game. Not a game.
This be toward excellence and be toward victory.
Throw. But forget anything else.
Ultimate
Not a
victory
game.
can never
We're
be
talking
completely
about
won.
practice.
Tempo
is everything, perfection unattainable. We need to practice. Not a game.
What you doing here? Don't you have practice?
We're talking about
Each
practice,
year,
man.
a lot of pressure.
You gotta rise above it. I mean, how silly is that?
How bad can it get?
No, I'll handle this the way I want to handle it now that I'm here.
And we're talking about practice. I know it's important.
If you put your effort and concentration into playing to your potential.
I do. I honestly do.
You learn by doing.
But we talking about practice, man. What are we talking about?
The key to being a professional is consistency.
Practice?
I want to talk to you about motor skills.
We talking about practice, man.
Learn how to win.
We talking about practice. We ain't talking about the game. We talking about practice, man. We
I looked at every.
Oh, you're supposed to.
I looked at every break except for this one.
You're killing me. All right, so.
All right,
okay,
let's go.
Reed,
Let's try this again.
Okay, let's try this again. It'll be in the podcast, so
right.
we'll try to do this word
So
for word.
anyway,
now. What's in the chat room?
We were trying to talk about Pooh Bear Darts brought up a point saying that that's strength of schedule. Was that what it was?
Strength of field was
strength
impossible.
of field was impossible because if Larry Butler and Darren Young play each other in the first round, then the field got easier for the rest of the people involved.
Right, and he's a little bit wrong and a little bit right, I think, is what I said about that. The reason he's a little bit...
Actually, you just said he was wrong.
Did I? So now I'm fixing it? Well, I don't think I said he was wrong. I think, and let me bring the slide up so you guys can see, where in the formula I have actually anticipated this exact problem. About halfway down where you see EV times PP, after that you'll also see that the points that you earn, you get more points if the event is seeded,
okay,
and you get more points if the event is alternate start.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason that we're doing that is, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to say it as well as I did
the first time
when the mics were off. But the idea here is that the strength of field, because who did he say? Larry and Darren?
Larry and Darren.
Let's say Larry and Darren are still in the field. That still makes it a tough field.
Right.
But what we're doing is, because it's possible that they'll meet in the first round, you'll get less points for an event like that than you will in a seeded event where they won't meet in the first round.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
Because if you're an unseeded player, we don't want tournaments to have any incentive to, be monkeying with the draws or anything like that. But the idea here, if this formula becomes popular, what it's going to do is it's going to give tournaments, if tournaments are interested in ADO points for their players and people want to get up in these rankings, then there's more pressure on the tournaments to use seeding and to use alternate starts, and we give them a means to do that. We'll actually give them a means to seed any soft tippers that come up, right? We'll be able to calculate this down, and we'll be able to list a couple of hundred players. Mm-hmm. I mean, some of them aren't going to have, a lot of points.
Right.
And our points won't look the same as, like the ADO points, because we're going to end up with decimals. If you guys look at the crawl and you see, where's the thing? If you look at the crawl and you see look, there they are. You see Joe Huffman has 11.31 points, and Benny Dersch has, 10.19 points, right? I mean, it looks close, right?
Yeah.
It's like 1.2 points isn't a whole lot. And if you look at Larry Butler, and this doesn't count February because I know Larry's having a good month, he's got, or Gary Mawson, half the points. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that looks like a big lead, right? I posted this, and some people were thinking it was darts per round, and they couldn't figure out how, or marks per round in cricket. They couldn't figure out how somebody had an 11.
Steve, can I comment on that question about Darren and Larry in a tournament?
Sure, please do.
What's interesting is I understand the comment, but whoever, whether it be Darren or Larry, who gets through that round, the tournament was notably harder for the winner of that match to keep on getting through. So in terms of considering the ranking of one of them who might continue to get through, it's certainly notably harder for them.
Yeah, I don't think it thanks, Dax. I don't think it really,
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah, it's a very good point. It doesn't, the strength of field is still there because they're playing. Whether they play each other, we've tried to anticipate that, and therefore, you get more points if they're not. But, yeah, for whoever wins, they had a tough bracket.
Right.
But then for every tough bracket like that, then it makes another bracket easier, right? So if you happen to be in the bracket that doesn't have Larry and Darren, then odds are there's one less quality player for you to get through. So we try to anticipate that. It's not going to be like absolutely 100% ideal, but as soon as somebody's got a better system, they can email darttalk@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to look at it. Because, we're open-minded on this, but I think the time has come, because there are so many more soft tip events now. You got the Americas Tour coming up and stuff like that. How do you take, somebody who's done really well in those things and is playing a little bit of steel, and how do you, reconcile that into one rating system? And I think this does it. I think we can do it this way. I think it's going to work. So I'm actually kind of stoked about it. It took a lot of time. And I kind of monkeyed around with this a little bit, and luckily I had some good tournaments to, compare it to and make sure that the numbers actually worked out. So I was kind of happy about that. We do have results. I know they're running around on the crawl. Let me see if I can. Oh dear. Okay, that's not going to work.
What?
All right. Well, I need to try to find them. Is the thing. So okay. Can you vamp for 30 seconds while I get this up?
Can I? Yeah, it depends.
That means talk. Talk about something for 30.
I know what vamp means.
Okay. Just vamp away.
Doesn't necessarily mean I can do it. What do you try? I don't even know what you're trying to do.
I'm going to bring the results
we're bringing
up.
Results.
Well, yeah, because we got a little confused here. With
results where?
Well, I have results. Do you want to do Syracuse, or do you want to do...
Yeah, Syracuse is fine.
We also have
Are you sending to me, or do I have to read it from there?
You're gonna have to. Can you read them from here?
I don't know. I got to see what the font is.
Totally like Mutt and Jeff here. Do you realize how bad we sound now? I'm just saying, just in general.
Okay.
So me talking is not really the vamp thing. You talking is the vamp thing. So talk, please.
I'm just watching you do what you do,
okay.
Which I still have no idea.
I don't think that's compelling viewing for everybody. Here we go. Okay, why don't we do results from
Syracuse?
You think we could do that?
I think we can. No, I don't. Apparently we can't. It's creating a spreadsheet, so apparently I can't do anything yet.
This is your idea of vamping? You should have went back to why
Cal Ripken should be in the
Hall of Fame for perfect attendance. I don't want to make any.
I'm
of the
not a big.
Baltimore
I'm not a
fans.
big Hall of Fame person anyway because I think it's.
Okay,
there's
so
too many things.
Friday night men's pro shoot 401 in Syracuse. Top 4, Bob Seneve, and I should apologize. I think I misspelled his name in the crawl. So sorry
really?
about that, Bob.
I didn't notice.
Yeah. Bob Seneve and John Verwey, top 4. Greg Van Lynen, second place to Andre Carmen. That's 401 in the pro shoot. Here's the women.
Trish Gressick, Krista Venedam, top 4. Callie West second, and Kim Whaley Hiltz.
Okay,
First
that was
place.
for the women's 401. They had a blind draw cricket, top 4, John Weinrich, Ryan Morey, Nick Lindberg, James Reese. Second place, James Box, Adam Burton. And the winners, Ross Snook, and Woody Doty. That was for the blind draw cricket. I assume that was like Friday night.
Men's doubles cricket, Tom Baumgartner, Levi Remick, Andre Carmen, John Verwey for top 4, Darren Young, Dan Olson second place with Paul Bolduc and Martin Tremblay first place.
Paul Bolduc is a nice guy. It's kind of funny, 2 Canadians winning cricket. Don't tell me they can't play cricket. Don't tell me 01 players can't just turn around and play cricket. I don't know who says they can't, but I always thought they could. Interesting Players Challenge Series match this weekend in Port City. Levi Remick is playing
really? Okay.
Bazooka Joe Efter. They haven't announced the time yet. I hear they're going to stream it. We will post that on our Dart Talk Facebook page, and we'll get it on Facebook so everybody can find the stream and stuff. I know you guys like that. Whose turn?
Yours.
Okay, women's doubles cricket. Top 4, Holly Frary, Kirsten McCandless, and the Whisper Twins, Callie West and Robin Curry. Second place, Kay Hoover and Kathy Salway. Winners, Stacy Pace and Trish Gressick. What was that? Women's doubles cricket.
Men's singles cricket, Andre Carmen, John Verney for top 4. Greg Van Lynen, second place, Tom Sawyer, your winner.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. They played a PCS match, and the reports. If you guys want Players Challenge Series reports, they have their own Facebook page. Just type in Players Challenge Series with no apostrophe, and you'll get that. Tom Sawyer lost to Ryan Vanderwhite, 10-9.
Oh, in the Players
Challenge Series
really?
in Syracuse, and Greg Van Lynen had to step in for Jimmy Widmer, and he beat Brandon Rogers 10-8. Apparently, good matches.
So, yeah, sounds good.
Also, for the Huntsville matches, Chuck Pankow lost to Chainsaw 10-5, and Ralph McCool won the rematch against Jason Brandon 10-5. And then the match reports are also on that Facebook page if you guys want to check them out. The stats are up there and everything. Your turn.
Again?
Okay. Women's singles cricket, top 4, Kay Hoover and Robin Curry. Second place, Stacey Price. And the winner, Kim Whaley Hiltz. She's a nice lady.
Is it Pace or Price?
Pace. What'd I say?
Price.
Stacey Pace. Okay.
Mixed triples, 601. Tom Sawyer, Trish Gressick, Jason Barlow, Ryan Vanderwheat, Callie West, Bob Seneve for top 4. Joe Davis, Deb Davis, John Davis, second place. And Pat Jurison, Kay Hoover, and Kevin Yasinchak for your winners of the mixed triple 601.
Some Ohio folks. Pat Jurison and Kevin Yasinchak are supposed to be 2 of the 4 players that are playing in Youngstown for the Players Challenge Series in a couple of weeks. So looks like they're in good form. Pat Jurison, I know, is in good form. He did pretty well at the Cricket Nationals in Vegas about a month ago. Blind draw 501, top 4, Jason Barlow and Bruce Davey. Wow, that was a pretty good draw. Mike Smith and Norman May, top 4. John Davis, Kevin Yasinchak, second place to Doug Boehm and David Forney. And I think we got some Utes.
We got some Utes.
We
got mixed doubles 501 for Stacey Pace, Jason Barlow, Tom Sawyer, Trish Gressick for top 4. Miles Gallagher, Kristen McCandless for second place. Darren Young and Robin Curry win your mixed doubles 501.
It's kind of nice, Miles, I played with him in the Utes. I think he's in the youth results because he's still under 18 or under 17 or something. That's pretty good for a 17-year-old to make the final in a tournament like this. Men's doubles 501, top 4, David Kiosian, Joe Rutsky, Andre Carmen, John Verwey. Second place, Ryan Vanderwheat, Bob Seneve. And the Millers won that. Bernie and Ron Miller won that. What do we got?
Women's doubles, top 4, Stacey Pace, Trish Gressick with Kathy Brandis and Sherry Wells. Second place, Kay Hoover, Kathy Salway. And first place goes to Callie West and Robin Curry.
Whisper Twins. Happy birthday, Callie. We got the Utes. Here's the teens. Okay. Just go top 2 here.
Teen event. Zachary Jones second and Miles Gallagher your winner.
Okay, congrats to Miles. He's a nice kid. I still think he's like a miniature Fred Krueger. But in the youth 12 and under, Jacob Demers beat Joshua Demers. And congrats to all those people who played. There was one other thing that I wanted to get to tonight. Somebody has a problem. Ryan Vanderwhite has a problem.
Has a problem?
Here's Ryan Vanderwhite needs a nickname, like, very, very badly. And I tried to help him out.
Yes.
So get this. He's a sheet metal worker, and I call him Tintin, and he doesn't like it. So let me show everybody why
you
I
call
him Tintin. On the left is a picture of Tintin, who's this cartoon character from, I don't know, the 30s or something, and there's a picture of Ryan Vanderwhite. I mean, do they not look similar?
They look similar to me.
Same hair, same nose.
Right.
That's a
the
little
ears
bit of a
are close.
profile. Well,
Blonde hair.
Ryan Vanderwhite doesn't like Tintin, and no matter what, I can't talk him into it. So he's like, well, why don't you ask the chat room for a suggestion?
I think if you say it long enough, eventually he'll accept it.
He said he kind of wanted to be like a wrecking ball, and I'm like, well, why don't you get a wrecking ball? He's like, like a graphic of a wrecking ball hitting a dartboard, and I'm like, well, why don't you get a wrecking ball and put a picture of Tintin on it and have that smack into the dartboard and call yourself Tintin?
Call him Tin Snips.
Tin Snips. Then you can't use the picture of the guy he looks like.
I'm just saying he uses Tin Snips when he works.
So, okay, everybody, here's your homework assignment. Ryan Vanderwhite needs a nickname. You can email darttalk@gmail.com, and we'll give the best suggestions to Ryan next week. I don't know if he's in the chat room or not. Are we over an hour?
Yep.
Oh, we're way over. Okay.
We're way over.
Thanks for joining us, Dax Munna, the commissioner of the New York City Premier League.
Congratulations on your little girl.
Thank you very much.
Congrats on that, and congrats on winning. Didn't you win the league? Didn't you beat Jimmy
I did
in
win
the
the
final?
league this year.
Well, congrats on that. I don't know if we read that or not. They have so many results coming out of New York.
I don't think we read that.
It's kind of hard to keep track of. And I know.
I appreciate it, guys.
Oh, I hope I see you soon. Maybe get down in Virginia Beach, man.
There's a chance I'll be traveling come next year. There's a chance I'll be traveling a lot.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Dax. Stop in anytime. We liked having you.
I appreciate it.
Okay. And then
thanks, guys.
Okay,
Thank
I know. I'm sorry to the audience. I know we had like a little audio problem there. It's pretty much my fault. Actually, I should blame you for that.
It's my fault.
Yeah, I should totally blame you. I was trying to give you cover.
Yeah, no.
And not throw you under the bus, but it was like totally. You only got two things.
One of my jobs.
That's one of your jobs. Yeah. It's that thing right there. No, but anyway, the audio podcasts are on iTunes. They're on TuneIn.com. They're on Stitcher.com. If like the commercials came in and you missed something good, and then our video archive is up on YouTube. The show's usually up, I don't know, hour, 2 hours after. And this is one that you should probably watch. If you guys are listening to the podcast, you're going to want to look at the formula. So it's kind of hard to visualize it with me describing it, I think. But I think everybody kind of got the gist of it there.
I think so too. I think you get the gist, but yeah, if you see the formula, it's a little easier to
I think it's a little easier
understand.
if you can see it. Okay,
Yeah.
so you guys probably want to check YouTube on this. Darttalk.us is our website, darttalk.us, and it's going to look a lot better next week. Or going to Michigan this weekend is going to be like
a waste of time?
Pretty much. No, I'm looking forward to it. And again, we're hoping to have more improvements, visual improvements on the show. Hopefully by next week. We've talked about it.
Are you getting somebody else instead of me? You want better visual?
You're better looking than
visual
I am. Come
improvements.
On. We got to get Greg Von Leinen on the show, or some of these like good-looking guys.
Right.
Get Dave Switzer on there,
or at least just give you like
tank top,
give you a stick like a PTI.
Eye candy.
They do on PTI.
Oh, where you like the fake face?
Yeah, I
hate
hold their
that
face
show.
in
And to be honest, Tony Kornheiser had a great radio show. They haven't in Chicago in a long time. But the thing that kills me about like Mike and these guys, and we'll end on this, but this is a pet peeve of mine, is like how many great weekends of sports these guys take Monday off. And by the time they show up, it's all old news. Right? Tony Kornheiser, I swear to God. Or they're like, oh, well, did you watch Monday Night Football? No, I went to bed because they're on the East Coast, right?
Yeah,
it comes on
right.
later. No. So it's the biggest sporting event of the day, and you didn't see it because you slept through it, but you're going to talk sports for 3 hours. I mean, what kind of credibility is that? I just, it kills me. Olympics, I don't know what to say about. We have to play Canada 2 days in a row. The women play tomorrow and the men play Friday. So that's 11 Central.
It's unfortunate that we don't play Canada men's in the gold.
Who's got more Blackhawks? The Canadians or the? There's only like one Blackhawk on the American team. How are we going to win if all the Blackhawks are playing for Canada? Don't we only have?
Well,
Patrick
yeah,
Kane?
because we're better.
Okay. Should be a good
But I
game.
believe you're correct. I think we only have Patrick Kane on the US side.
I'm torn. If they have 5 Blackhawks and we have 1, and I'm a Blackhawks fan, I have a hard time.
Why?
Because I'm a Blackhawks fan.
Well, good. Root for them to win the Stanley Cup. Don't root for them to Canada to win the.
Well, I'm not going to root for Canada. I'm just sort of like, I see Jonathan Toews. I want to see the guy make a play. He's my guy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of rough. I don't know. It's rough on me. Everybody, I need your sympathy. Anyway, no, I was kind of goofing around with some people about that today, so I just thought that was kind of funny. You got anything?
No, I think I'm done.
Okay, we're going to stick around for a bit of an after party, but you guys are going to have to hit F5 if you want to keep watching us. The chat will just keep running. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back next week, 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern, and till then. Take care. Safe travels going to Port City, and we will Dart talk to you next week.